Welcome to the DevReady Podcast, where we're helping non-techs build better tech. Today, we're joined by Stuart Dalrymple. He is the Commercial Operations Manager at a medtech company in the world of AI, franklin.ai. Exciting space, I imagine, and a lot going on in that world. Well, I've brought Stuart on to the podcast today. He's a non-technical person that's been around startups, B2B SaaS for a number of years now. And his journey could shed a lot of light into other things to consider other than just the technical product. Stuart, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. Thanks for having me on board.
I appreciate you taking the time this morning. Let's just dig in a little bit about your journey. Where did it all start? How did you get involved in the world of startup, B2B SaaS?
Well, yeah, we could start way back when, I suppose, when I was 5 years old. I think I got a NES for Christmas. I was just hooked with technology from an early age with that first Goomba being Mario. Grew up with like an old Windows 95, Pentium 100. Started messing around with DOS commands and went to uni to study computer science. And I was always more drawn to the business aspects, I guess, of IT than the coding.
Yep.
I found coding quite frustrating.
That sounds a bit like myself, actually.
In C. Compilers giving you terrible errors that were hard to debug. I feel like it's a lot harder back then to debug code. I think if I had ChatGPT back then, maybe I'd actually be a developer. But anyways, I did an internship with a utilities company and got a job graduating there, which was awesome as a graduate because doing a bit of everything. I was writing business requirements, had the suit, but I was also doing some coding in COBOL, which
you told me you're non-tech, Stu. What's going on? Bit of coding there.
I wasn't very good at it. But yeah, so they had a good system. They sort of they'd win projects and send sort of 20-somethings to go and deliver them, charging us out at daily rates. So I lived in the Netherlands, lived in the Singapore.
Nice.
But after a while, I was sort of ambitious. I wanted to get into management, and we'd actually been taken over by Oracle at the time. Back then in the 2000s, I think Oracle was acquiring like 2 companies a month or something crazy.
Yeah, they grew rapidly back then.
And there was just a whole lot of So, I couldn't really find a way to progress my career. So that's where I sort of got into startups, actually, not in tech, but I did something a lot of people do. We joined the family business.
Oh, nice. Yep.
My partner at the time, her family was from Malaysia. So, we moved to Malaysia to do something that I had no idea about, which was actually renovate a warehouse into a hotel and a restaurant.
Oh, wow. All right. A different type of startup. Yes.
Yeah.
Physical.
Different type of startup, but a lot of the same challenges actually pervade, I guess. So the first thing I kind of learned out of that experience was cash is king. So it's a common phrase, I suppose, but we kind of bit off more than we could chew. We had a budget. We went right down to the wire on that budget, just sort of building the hotel, the restaurant, the cafe, and without cash, the business it didn't have the oxygen to grow. Lesson. If I did it all again, I would have pared back a lot of the scope of what I was doing. I suppose maybe just start with a hotel, partner with someone. Buy, don't build. I suppose partner, don't build it yourself. Just to save some of that runway, I suppose. I didn't even know what runway was back then, but now I do. And the other lesson, I guess, for startups, which can go into tech as well, is I think too early is the same as being wrong. I think Richard Hendricks said that on Silicon Valley. But so what I mean by that, specifically, we'd seen this sort of wave of third wave coffee in Kuala Lumpur, the cold drips and the like. And we thought, well, it's only a matter of time until that spreads out to the other states. So we'll bring it here first. But that's what we wanted, but that wasn't what customers wanted. Customers traveled to this area for the old recipes, for the nostalgia of it. And they were used to Starbucks, sugary drinks. They didn't want, this bitter cold drip. So, lesson there, I guess, is make what your customers want, not what you want, I guess. So that was my first venture, startup venture. Very interesting, but quite stressful. Ultimately, I exited the business and I came back to Australia for family reasons, effectively.
Okay.
And but I had a taste. I had a taste of startups, and it wasn't going to be the last time I did the startup thing.
They're listening to our customers, right? So just asking customers as they come in the door would have been a simple philosophy in terms of, all right, let's bring some of the cold, the cold drip coffee you're talking about, yeah? Yeah, let's bring some of that in. Let's see if people actually want it rather than trying to push it. Same as technology, right? So similar, we build features that we think might add value, but are we actually questioning our customers? So great lesson there.
Yeah, for sure. And so, I came back to Australia and I joined a software company called Janison. So they're actually based out of Coffs Harbour, which is a beautiful area of Australia if you get a chance to live there. But they built education software, so LMS, digital exams, and sold to governments and universities, etc. So, it was quite a big learning in terms of selling software, B2B. They did a lot of tenders, actually. And so the thing I sort of learned from my mentor with tenders is someone always has the inside track.
Okay.
So they're helping shape the tender requirements in their favor.
Yeah, interesting.
And most of the other people are making up the numbers.
Yes. It's quite fair, isn't it, the system?
Yeah, if you... So if you don't have the inside track, you can assume someone else does have the inside track. So you can do a couple of things. So obviously the ideal situation is you're early in the process. You engage with customers before they actually go out to market, and you're positioning yourself as a trusted guide, either directly or maybe through content marketing and these things. And you need to really know more about that area of the business than they do. And so if you're invited to a tender, you could ask to review the requirements and provide input on them. Maybe say that you've seen several customers make mistakes, and it'll be hugely costly for them if they don't at least consider these certain areas. Just like sense check, see if they're open to hearing your input on those. If they are, that's clearly going to be a good sign for you. If they sort of shut that down and say, look, no, this is what it is, it's likely they have a preferred vendor in mind, and you're pretty much just
wasting your time.
Yeah. So
it's a great tip because tenders can
be wasting your time.
Weeks of effort to pull something together. So it's a good tip.
Absolutely. I think, definitely for startups, especially, you're very time poor. So what you spend your time on is critical. You're just burning runway there. So, there are other creative things you can do. So you can sort of try to get around it by saying, look, do you have a contract amount below which a tender is not required? So some governments or councils, at a certain number, there'll be an internal number. Let's say it's $20,000 or something. Above that, they just have to go to tender. It's their policies. They can't do anything else. So, okay, well, we can actually structure you a 19K pilot, like the ones that
we'll make that
just
work,
go below their cutoff point. And you won't give them everything that they need for that, obviously, but just by getting your foot in the door, they'll get to use your solution. And through that, they may still need to go to a larger tender, but after using your solution for 3 months, 6 months, you're going to shape that tender in your favor.
So you get the inside,
if you can't do either of those things,
track, right? So it gives you that leg up to get it moving in the direction you want it. Got it.
100%. So that was a really good learning there. But at the same time, I guess combined with my hotel experience, I decided, look, I need to, if I want to succeed in business, I need to educate myself. So I actually decided to go and get an MBA at that point. And I'd had someone tell me that, because I think MBAs can be quite decisive. Most people that have one say they're good. People that don't say they're worthless. I'm a bit more balanced, I would say. Look, all this knowledge, you can learn anything like these days, obviously on the internet. You can learn accounting. You can learn business strategy. Absolutely. It's do you have the discipline to go and do it yourself? I mean, I kind of look at it like personal training. Like anyone could get fit themselves, anyone could educate themselves on fitness, but do you? Some people can, and that's great. Other people need someone there, holding them accountable, and I think doing formal education does that.
And the formal education is a direction, right, as well. So it's not just I'm just plucking as to which area to go in and learn about. It gives you a direction and a format to follow, which makes it a lot easier to just get into line and follow the track, and then you can learn through that journey. University is any type of education after you leave high school. There's value in it from the discipline perspective. There's value in it from teaching you how to learn. And you pick up some nuggets and you meet some great people. So there's always value in it from that perspective, from what I said.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, so the 50% was the knowledge, was the other 50% was the networking and just meeting people. And if you just enjoy that, then it might be worth it. But sort of armed with that, I guess I furthered my commercial and software education working at Henry Schein. So Henry Schein is the largest dental company in the world. They do everything from toothpicks, toothbrushes to chairs, machinery, and they have software. And so the phrase that we had at the time was turning good practices into great businesses. And I had some great mentors there and learned a lot about sort of business in general. But if you think about some businesses, and this will tie back to startups in a second, but something like a dentistry, it's a very simple business when you break it down. It's basically bums in seats. So you have a fixed asset, your chairs. Do you have patients in the chairs or not? If you do, if you don't, actually, well, why not? Is there enough people on the books? So they're coming back often enough? Do you need to recruit new patients? And if you're pretty busy, but you're still sort of not making money, well, it's all about that average hourly rate. So, what services are you providing them? What products are you selling? What are you upselling? How do you get those like high value treatments booked in effectively? So it's a very logical way of thinking. And I think I sort of had additional training from the MBA, but that was really, we tied all that back to, and you might be saying, well, that's all just business stuff. How does that relate to tech and to software? But I think when you're building a software product, people talk about like vitamins versus painkillers. I kind of think of it like the best products in order, basically either make you money, save you money, and then lastly, save you time. And so we were very much trying to build products that would make the business money. And those are I think the most compelling types of products. I think a lot of startups can fall into the trap of we'll save you time. But just if you think about a dentist, like if a minute saved isn't a minute booked. Just because I save 2 minutes on writing that report, unless I have a new patient, waiting to come in, what am I doing with that 2 minutes? Just getting a coffee. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I find it fascinating, the trap of saving your time. Dig in on that a little bit more, because I think it's hard with money. I think you're probably right there, because we can really justify dollars and cents, and we can see if we're creating money or making more revenue. It's easy to see that, and we get excited about that as a business. Time, sometimes we don't treat that as value, and we sort of get guys, we spent 40 hours on this thing, but we don't really justify down to, that actually cost us $4,000 to execute, whatever it might be as a number, right? So I think, that's actually an interesting point. I haven't heard anyone speak to it like that.
Yeah, because I think especially when you're creating the product and you're thinking, how am I going to sell this? And it's like, well, I'm going to save them, 10 minutes on every job. And then you start doing it, you go into Excel and it's like, well, if they're doing, 1,000 jobs a year and I'm going to save them this much and the hourly rate is blah, blah. It's like, I can give you ROI on this. It's like, it doesn't quite work like that, because the person that they're paying to do this job, they're still paying them that fixed wage.
Yeah, unless they've got more work for them to do, then there's no relevance, right? Yeah, fair point.
Exactly. So you have to get creative and really understand the business. And I think this is something else that I learned, that very often I was either like the companies I worked for or on my own side hustles that I tried to get off the ground. I was trying to solve problems for other people, but I didn't have an intimate understanding of their business or their problem. I just thought, that would be a problem for them. I'll go and try to solve it. So it's kind of a common advice, which I'm trying to follow more these days, which is like, find problems like in your own life, or maybe it's your partner or family, or at least you can have that intimate inside knowledge of the business and solve those problems rather than just finding any problem in the world. Like for me personally,
there's lots of problems in the world, right?
There's a lot of things that I don't know about. I don't know.
And then educating yourself
there's
on
a lot
the
of problems
industry.
in the world.
It's
so
not
you
that
may
simple.
not be blessed. Yes, exactly. Like there could be heaps of problems, no doubt, in construction. I know nothing about it. I'm probably not the best person to go and, solve their problems for them.
Yeah. It becomes and it probably leads to the fact of, so a bit about us, we're a technology consulting business. If we crack into another industry, that's a lot of effort to pick up, learn, understand, and we need to do a lot of that at early stage. So if you're going to go in and understand other people's problems, generally you're not going to have that domain expert. If you don't have that domain expert, you're in all sorts of trouble, because we're feeding off domain experts to get to an outcome, which is a great way to do it. So if you're thinking about a startup in a different industry, maybe tackle and see if you can bring in a domain expert to assist. That's probably one piece of advice I'd give there, because that's from our learning. You need someone that understands the business or the industry or the challenges. Otherwise, you're really not going to get to an outcome. You got to be interviewing people, stakeholders for years before you really figure it out. It'll be a slow process.
For sure. And then, so let's assume that you do have that industry knowledge, whether directly or you're able to access it easily. Something else that I guess I've valued over the course is really how to compete on features with a market research angle. So, when we're talking about features, we're building software. People love to have their roadmap. But I think too often those things can just be in a vacuum and not necessarily against competition or substitute products. Unless you're creating something that's completely brand new and there's absolutely zero competition, but this is almost very rarely the case.
It's very rare.
Very, very rare. So, the way that I kind of think about it is, I guess, table stakes, features, neutralizers, and delighters. Okay. So I'm going to, talk a little bit about those, but before that, I guess you need to kind of think about how people actually buy. So like when people buy something, they're taking into account a whole host of criteria in their mind, probably subconsciously, sometimes consciously, but it's price, it's performance, the brand, the specific features, the service, reviews, all these things are kind of melding together and they're trying to create whatever they think is value for them. So different customer segments will have different criteria. And so if you have your product, you know the industry, you have this target segment of people, but you really want to understand how they view your solution against other solutions, and what criteria are important to them. So maybe I can give an example. So let's say Kia has an electric car. I actually don't know if Kia has an electric car, but let's say that they do.
I'm not sure either. Not big cargo. I know they're bringing out a Ute, apparently. But about everywhere.
Okay. The Ute's coming. So let's say they want to bring out an electric car and they want to compete with Tesla. So, but their engineers are sitting there going like, what do we build here? Like, are we going for speed? Are we going for efficiency? Well, before they invest in anything, they need to understand why people who buy Tesla buy Tesla. Maybe some is for the speed, maybe some for environmental reasons, some is for the brand and what it sort of says about them and their personality. So, you imagine if the Kia engineers sat down and all they did was work on efficiency and environmental. Would they outsell Tesla?
Probably not, say no,
because that's only one dimension, and that's not the only reason people buy Tesla. And so if they had have done more research on that, they could say, okay, well, Tesla's obviously it's a very iconic brand, I suppose, but if the Kia brand was like only 10% worse, like it's pretty good, it's like, okay, well, we don't need to invest anymore there, and you know what, we don't need to be as fast, 10%. 10%, like 90% as fast. It's like, okay, that the speed is ticked, the brand is ticked. It's like, oh, actually efficiency. And this is where I guess features, and this can relate to software, where I'm going with that is that you don't always need to be better than someone on everything. You can neutralize their features. So maybe there's a competitor software that does something really well. If you can kind of do it 90% as well, like even maybe 80% as well, you get the box. You might tick the box on that, but you could pick another dimension, whether they don't do it well, or your customers specifically would want a better solution there, and that's where you pick. I think Mark Zuckerberg once said that you can't just 80-20 everything. Like you have to be the best at something.
If you can stand out at something, that's going to attract a crowd, right? So whoever's interested in the area. So in the world of Tesla, If people buy it for brand and they're investing heavily in brand and they win on brand, that's going to infiltrate a decent customer base from that perspective. But they may not be the most efficient. So someone that wants to buy on efficiency, like you said, can go and buy the key or whoever's winning in that space.
Exactly. So it's just really comes down to kind of understanding what certain segments want and then where you actually can compete. And maybe you're good enough in a certain area, so you keep that ticking along, but then you find a delighter that you can really sort of win on. So you don't have to win on everything because you just won't have the resources to build everything.
That's impossible, isn't it?
That would be my advice. Literally.
Yeah, there's no way you can win on everything unless even Microsoft can't win on everything. So that's the reality. A good little story on that is we work with a product called All Zero, which is like just an authentication service. Microsoft's got their own, but it's just a piece of junk. So if you were to compete one-on-one, it's just terrible to integrate with, terrible to use. But that's Microsoft, right? And then you've got this little startup, which is now quite a big company that's just focused on one feature and delivered it, and really delivered it from a business perspective, made it easier for people to make it work, and they're winning a lot of the market share. And then no one really uses that little Microsoft thing that sits in the back. So it's an example. You can't win at everything.
Yeah, and that's interesting because I think you kind of see that as categories mature. If you think of something like a Jira, like back in the day, I don't even know what people were sort of using to probably a Microsoft product to manage tasks. Along came Jira. It was easy to use, probably TFS or something. But
probably easy to use back Jira then than it is now. It's very challenging to set up that thing these days.
Back then.
It's very dynamic these days.
Correct. So, but then over time, as this task management, I guess, matured, and then they kept adding features, it became really clunky. The permissions became a nightmare. It was so hard to use. And then it goes back to that doing one thing really well. Then a lot of smaller alternatives popped up, which kind of unbundled and unpacked all of the extra features and weight that Jira had added, and just said, look, we just do this one thing really well. This is all you ever needed in the first place. And then it kind of comes full circle.
Yeah, start again. So that's the Notions of the world.
Just picking
the
that
ClickUps
niche.
that are done really well. Monday.com. It's all very competitive.
Yeah, definitely. So, where were we anyway? So that was the dental journey, I guess. And then, I kind of got a bit of a exposure to healthcare, I suppose, working with dentists, thinking more about patients. And that was just something that was really interesting to me. I think that, startups love to claim that they're going to make the world a better place. And so to some extent that's true. But I do think if you're working in healthcare, in medtech, you have a stronger claim to that. At least I resonate more with that. So, I had the opportunity to join MoleMap, which is a New Zealand brand. They have skin surveillance clinics across New Zealand and Australia.
It's quite a large MoleMap. They're quite a large brand now. I've never been there, but I've heard of them. So quite a big brand.
Yeah, well, especially, I guess, being in Australia, 2 out of 3 Aussies, I think, get skin cancer in their lifetime, which is kind of crazy.
It's a huge number, isn't it? Very crazy number.
Huge number, yeah. I think it's a hole in the ozone layer. GPs are very busy. Skin cancer can be hard to spot, so you sort of combine those. And what they had, I guess they had 20 to 25 years of data. And then, we know sort of AI has just been blowing up in the last year specifically.
Yes, 12 months.
Yes. So they really wanted to sort of take this data and create an AI product. And so, I guess with all the challenges of any startup, doing a startup in healthcare, specifically as a medical device, is extremely challenging.
There's a lot of red tape,
you take all the normal challenges.
There's a lot of challenges. There's a lot of
all about the red
jumping
tape.
through the hoops and getting approvals, and the advantage of that is, though, you build a bit of a moat. If you can get through all that, it's very hard to sort of catch up. So you can build, if you can start early, get through all the challenges and the years of heartache, it does build a moat for other people. It's hard to get back in there. That's the one advantage in the world of healthcare.
It's true. Yeah. So yeah, I've kind of put the challenges into three sort of buckets. So the first one is the red tape, so the regulated device. You legally just can't ship early and often. You might have, 1 or 2 or more years of development before it can be legally used, which is for a good reason because we need it to be safe.
Correct. Yes.
It's people's health at the end of the day. And so the second one is, I guess, around the change management for whether it's doctors or for healthcare workers. If you're asking them to change their workflow, like this can be nearly impossible. They're extremely overworked. They're stressed already. There's a million things happening. And then this new platform's coming in saying, don't do it this way, do it this other way.
They're very process regimented too as well. Yeah. So in the world, very process regimented. Everything has to be checked, balanced. You've got quality assurance checking. So there's quite a bit in that world of. So it's hard to change process because of that too, I'd imagine.
Yeah, and then the last one is, I guess, around the economics. So healthcare's always underfunded. Everyone's under resourced. Places like the US, particularly, they rely heavily on sort of this insurance reimbursement, so that's something that takes years to secure, if possible. And the first question you often get asked if you're speaking in the US to healthcare is like, well, is this where's the reimbursement? Like, what are we going to get paid for doing this little extra activity? And if they're not getting paid for it, they can't do it effectively. They can't justify doing it. So yeah, if you want to sort of play in this space, I guess some tips from me would be go for the lowest regulatory barrier if you can. So specifically in research. So if you are marked as a research use only product, you're working with universities, maybe with pharma companies, anyone that's not sort of doing direct patient care, if you like, the barriers are much, much lower there. And you can prove a product there. You can start making some money there early, maybe build up some reserves. Often these companies, they just have to get VC funding just because the gap between making revenue and building is so big. But I have seen companies start off in research and then as they build up their capabilities and the resources, then they can switch over into the patient land at a later point. So, you need that insider knowledge. We kind of already touched on that. So if you're selling to doctors, you need doctors on an advisory board. If you're selling to nurses, you need nurses in the company as well to really understand what's going to fly in the real world and what's not. And then, with economics, you really want to get creative, I suppose, and work with existing insurance companies, work with existing regimes like Medicare codes. A lot of this information, it is out there, it is public. You can go and study the codes, what's out there, what's being paid. And so what we kind of did in one of the business models that we had for the skin cancer AI was we found that not all codes are created equal. This is just in Australia specifically, but so if you biopsy a benign lesion, you wouldn't be paid very much by Medicare because you basically cut out something that's nothing.
There's something else.
Which makes sense because they don't want people cutting out a bunch of
just random things on the body. Yeah, that's right.
Random things. So whereas if you actually sort of biopsied a melanoma, it could be very lucrative. So we almost positioned a tool as a potential metal detector, I suppose. So it's like, look, this is something valuable. Cut it out, investigate it, versus this is likely benign, keep an eye on it, watch it,
so
refer
it. Goes back to your early point of a product to help you make money, not save you time. So that world, okay, interesting.
Yes, exactly. And that was the big thing as well, because when we spoke to some doctors, we're like, we're going to save you time. And it's like, so what am I going to do with that time? Like, I'm just going to get more work.
Yeah, it's fascinating, that sort of angle. So now we help you cut out the right things, so actually get paid properly for it. And understand.
Correct. Yeah. So that was a big learning there. And learned a bit about private equity and pitching to VCs. And I guess that sort of got me interested. And ultimately I ended up joining the Antler
I saw that.
Accelerator.
What was that experience like? So tell me about it.
Yeah, so I kind of went in, I thought I knew quite a bit, but actually, maybe I was a bit naive. It was an awesome learning journey. Again, great community of people to meet. yeah, Antler specifically, I guess the model is that you go into, I guess, what is 10 to 12 weeks of education, of mentoring with a cohort. Some people come in with an idea and it may be a co-founder. Other people don't even have a co-founder or an idea. They're going to find it amongst the group, which is quite cool. And yeah, you basically go to build an MVP if you can. Some people have technical skills, some people don't. So my partner and co-founder, we kind of jumped on some no-code tools. So yeah, we were just kind of self-educating, just doing what we could to hack something together.
Bubble, what were you using? Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so we actually used Flutterflow for the front end. And Xano for back-end database and APIs.
Nice.
So we actually did manage to launch an app onto the app stores within the 10 weeks. It was definitely
a huge success.
Long hours and a lot of frustration.
I can imagine.
And then sort of as we got closer, so effectively the Antler model is, I guess, they're sort of that day zero investor. So they'll provide, don't quote me on the exact numbers, but around 190, maybe 1,000 as an initial investment. I think they do take some of that back as sort of support fees, but you'll get something. You'll get off the ground and they'll support you going forward. But yeah, as we got closer and closer, so we had our app, we had it live, we were doing experiments on Facebook ads and that kind of thing. We had 200 users. So the app specifically was around mental health. So yeah, this was just before on the cusp of sort of the chat GPT explosion, I suppose. But yeah, we had sort of seen from our own lives and people that we knew that mental health obviously is so important in a post-COVID world. But some of the traditional advice and techniques, they didn't really fit with, I feel like, the times. So, do some journaling, do some gratitude, affirmations, these kinds of things. Just sitting down with that pen and paper. Yes, it's great if you have the discipline, kind of like back to the personal training thing. But especially for the younger generation, I guess the iPad generation, they just weren't engaged with these kind of solutions.
What's a piece of paper and pen?
And so... yeah, and then when you sort of combine that with, it's actually very expensive and even hard to get into to see some of these mental health professionals. And it's not always relevant to you. You might be able to struggling to sleep. It's 1 a.m. You're not going to have a call with a therapist at 1 a.m. Right. So we thought, well, if you had, not quite a therapist in your pocket, but you had like something to talk to, an AI to talk to, something that could help you with this journaling and these mental care activities. That could be really valuable. So we basically built this, I guess, mental health assistant called Maple, which was a friendly golden retriever, and you could chat to it. It would help you journal. And yeah, we had 200 users, and it was going somewhere, definitely. But as we got further into the program, I think we pictured what our lives would be like going down this VC path, I suppose. And we spoke to people that were just a bit ahead of us. So people that had raised the pre-seed, that raised seed, that had raised Series A. And yeah, I think the reality of that founder life, especially with having raised money, it's an adventure and it's for some people, but maybe we just realized that it wasn't for us.
What part of it was it for you? Because it's fascinating. I've always bootstrapped all my businesses, and it's like, that world I've been a part of on the outside, but not directly on the inside. So what part of it did you not enjoy? What did you not want to be a part of?
Yeah, I think, partly it's just down to personal circumstances. So, depending on where your career is at, depending on what you're earning, it could be quite a pay cut to do some of these things. So, because it sounds very glitzy and glamorous, and you'll have an article in AFR, or you'll be posted on LinkedIn everywhere, and it's going to look amazing and everything. But then the reality of these early stages is you're pouring as much money as you can into the business, whether that's like hiring engineers, developing the product, developing your sales and marketing, and you're eating ramen noodles at that time. It's not glamorous. So again, like if you're depending what your support system is like and where you're at, that could be completely fine. And the payoffs can obviously be big as well. But yeah, I guess where we were at the time, I was like, well, I love doing this stuff. I love working in tech, helping businesses. But yeah, to do it on my own, and then even just to take the responsibility of like, it's someone else's money. Like these are other people's money. You feel a responsibility. If you bootstrap and you want to put it on pause or do something else, that's just your own burden, I suppose. But there's a responsibility where I guess when you're taking investor money that we took seriously, and unless we could see ourselves doing this for the next 10 years, I didn't think it was kind of ethical to take that on. So yeah, for that reason, I just thought actually I'm probably going to prefer to bootstrap things in future.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, for anyone out there, like I definitely would I still recommend the program, but definitely just do your research and talk to people that are just ahead of you, because we thought, oh, well, once we raise the seed money, then like it'll be awesome. It's our business. We could just work on the product, which we're really enjoying. But then we spoke to some people further ahead. They're like, oh, no, as soon as you finish raising the seed, you have to started raising your Series A. And then once we raised the Series A, we asked, we said, well, what's next for you? And they're like, oh, well, we need to raise Series B. And it never really stops. So if you're okay with that, that's, again, fine. But I guess in my head, I sort of had this vision that you raise and then you can at least focus on the product for a year plus and then come back to it. But it didn't seem like that. It seemed like the people down the path from us were just constantly
from my
in
outside
the right race
looking
of
in,
raising.
it's like a hamster wheel. Once you're on it, you can't get off it because it's the bloodline that keeps feeding, and the VCs are expecting massive growth and driving growth or driving whatever they're looking at. It might be user base, it might not be revenue, it might be just users. We want to get to 1,000, 10,000 users as quick as we can, and to do that, we've got to pump all money into it. Once we prove that, we need more capital to go for 100,000. So it is that hamster wheel. Like I said, been in the space quite a bit from the outside in supporting a number of startups. One that's gone from friends, family, people in network, VC, now about to hit Series A and big dollars, but it's just continuous because they're not profitable. It is continuous. And it's, how do you get out now? You don't really, unless you're really successful at the other end. And it's a stressful journey, but it's people enjoy that too. It's high risk, high stake, like you said.
Exactly. And I mean, I always still have the call of wanting to build things, side hustles, etc. But I think in the future, personally, I'd want to, bootstrap, at least see the traction. If you get to a point where like customers are pulling it, you're seeing real momentum just off the back of whatever you were able to build together, either yourself or with agencies like yours, then it's a choice. Then it's like, okay, do we still want to just slowly build this up, or do we go all in? But you have that confidence that it's an actual real thing. And if you're going to take investment, you're kind of pouring like fuel on the fire. Versus, just
early
hoping
stage.
That your idea is actually something.
I feel you in that space. We've built our own little products in our business itself and bootstrap pretty much everything. There's other ways to actually get money too. I'll tell you a bit of story about what we did with a product in pharmacy. So I've been working in that space forever. And we had a customer that we custom built something for, and it was coming to end of life. But we saw a commercial opportunity to expand out a product that they were using. And I basically approached them as a seed investor into the new version of the solution, gave them a good kicker in terms of the 3-year deal on licensing, and it became a no-brainer for them. It gave us the money to build the product, and now it's a commercial product that's in 500 pharmacies. But we've never taken a cent. So there's interesting ways you can do things. But we're in a different position where we've got continuous revenue coming in from projects, and there's different ways we can model it. So there are different ways. It's a skin of cat, as they say.
Yeah, and I think that's a really smart way to do it. I think there's been a lot of sort of success stories where products now that we just sort of see as a off-the-shelf SaaS product. It started as like an in-house tool. Maybe they were building, A, and then to build A, they just needed to solve an issue that they were having internally.
That's what Slack is.
And then it's like, well, actually, if this is...
Slack is a huge success.
So many
they build that for a conversation internally. It's become an absolute monster of a product.
Yeah, I think even the history of AWS was something similar. With Amazon Bookstore just needing so much infrastructure.
Yeah, they built it for themselves, and then
how big that is.
Someone had the bright idea of, we've got these servers that are sitting there sometimes, let's start selling them out, and that's how Amazon AWS started.
Yeah, so I definitely think that's a smart way to do that as well, within a business entrepreneurship, I suppose. So. And yeah, that just we've kind of come full circle, I guess, on my journey. The role that I'm in currently at Franklin.ai. So again, in the health tech, med tech space with AI as well. This time working in pathology. So yeah, there's just not enough pathologists in the world. Post-COVID, more and more people are sort of coming in for their screening for cancer. It's an aging workforce as well, with pathologists sort of retiring, and not enough people coming in. I guess as a young kid, as a graduate, spending your life behind the microscope, it's not sexy.
Imagine not.
And
no.
This is kind of where Franklin was born, I suppose. So Dr. Angus and Dimitri Tran, they sort of witnessed firsthand the challenges of their local health system in Vietnam. They created the Harrison AI, which was a very successful in Australia in terms of raising VC money. Born from that were two ventures. One, Annalise AI, looking into radiology, and I'm in Franklin AI, which is more in the pathology space. So yeah, we've partnered with Sonic, which is a worldwide leader in healthcare and laboratories. And yeah, just finding ways to help pathologists find more cancer and do it efficiently.
In that
world,
an
exciting space to be in as well.
What are the biggest challenges of getting new technology into something like that? So how do you approach early stage trials? What does it look like to go from we've got a product, how do we now prove that this is really going to add value? What does that leap look like to actually get it into operation? Or are you not there yet?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I mean, I can talk more generally, I suppose, because it is my current role, but something that just outside looking in. If you can partner with your customers effectively, which is what Franklin's basically done. They've partnered with Sonic Healthcare. And so you can start by almost like your example that you shared as well. Almost start with a customer of one. Now, obviously, there's dangers in that because you just build something really, really bespoke that nobody else wants. So you balance that with doing your market research and discovery. But having that, low friction in, being able to deploy something without all of the rigmarole of buying processes and tenders that we spoke about before, to really sort of prove it out and build those reference sites, I suppose, and case studies, I think is a hugely smart way to do it. So yeah, something that I would advise startups to do as well. And I think some of these larger companies, it's just about finding the right one, but they're definitely open to working with startups. I think from their perspective, it can be almost like a win-win. So they know that they don't have sort of the budget. They might have budget, but they don't even have the focus for this innovation.
No, they don't.
Here's someone that's going to build it for them. If they fail, it means nothing to the big company anyway.
It's very true.
But if they succeed, then suddenly they get something at a fraction of the price without any disrupting any of the plans that they had in place or the resources that they had. So they can be quite open to it. I think it'd just be finding a good match there. But it's definitely, and ultimately they can be your first customer, your best customer. They may acquire you, or there could be things in the future as well. But it's definitely a good way to kind of take it from that product into commercialization. To partner or to JV with people.
Yeah, that's some really awesome insights across the journey of the podcast. So thank you for sharing all of your experience around startups, B2B sales, B2B SaaS, And yeah, thanks for just coming on DevReady Podcast, sharing that out to the audience. I really appreciate your time. And yeah, love to stay in contact because always doing some internal stuff. And I think I'd love to pick your brain. I think your thinking's quite good in terms of the way you position things. So let's stay in touch and really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Andrew. I think this is a testament maybe to the power of LinkedIn for good, because I know all social media can be hit and miss sometimes, but yeah, we just connected. We didn't know each other, but love to stay in contact, and anyone that wants to connect with me on LinkedIn as well, I'm always happy to add value. So thanks for having me on.
No, brilliant. Appreciate your time. Thank you.